That was Tiger's Jaw with Can't Wait Forever off their new album I Won't Care How You Remember Me. The latest album was put out by the band's new label Hopeless Records and dropped on March 5th of this year. Tiger's Jaw have been together for well over a decade now, since starting their career in Scranton, Pennsylvania back in 2005. In that time, they've put out a handful of EPs and 6 studio albums. I got to chat with the band's frontman, Ben Walsh, who has been with the band since the beginning. Ben and I chat about the new album, the relationship with their longtime producer, Will Yip, and we get some insight to what Ben has been listening to during this pandemic. Here's my chat with Ben Walsh of Tiger's Jaw. How has the pandemic been for you?
You know, it's brought on a whole new set of challenges in terms of being a band. We finished tracking our new record before the pandemic, and it was being mixed kind of like right when the news was breaking about it. So we really switched our plans around quite a bit. We had to move a tour and, push back the record release, and kind of then once we realized, nothing was really going to change for a while with, live touring. We were like, well, we don't want to wait on this record anymore. Let's just set a release date. So it's just been about, being creative in other ways, trying to focus on self-care and, not losing your mind, feeling stuck, so it's overall, it's been really challenging, but we've still managed to, have a lot of fun experiences, related to this record. So
cool. That's great. Have you been, in the same room with everyone at all? Or?
A few times. Yeah. So it was a little tough because, so Teddy, our drummer, lives in Detroit, and Mark, who plays guitar with us live, also lives near Detroit. Mm-hmm. And then Brianna and Colin are both in northeastern PA, and I'm in the Philadelphia area. So we're a little scattered, so which never used to be a problem because we'd be touring and everyone's used to travel, but there was a good stretch of last year where we just didn't see each other. So we were doing some solo live stream stuff over the internet. And eventually we were able to get together and film a couple music videos and we did a Studio 4 live stream performance. And then recently we got together to do one more music video and we filmed our album release show as well.
Oh, wicked. Cool. So that's all pre-done?
Yeah. So there's just so many logistical issues with us getting together at certain points, so based on everyone's availability, we just decided to do a lot, it's a live performance, but we pre-filmed it. So we're going to premiere it on release day at 8:00 Eastern time on YouTube, and we're going to watch along, and there's a group chat sort of thing for the premiere. And so we'll be, answering questions and commenting along and just kind of hanging out and watching along. So that's next Friday, March 5th is the premiere.
Yeah, that's super exciting. Are you kind of nervous releasing something during a pandemic, not being able to support the album with tour dates?
Yeah, I mean, this is our 6th record, and the past few have followed the pretty predictable cycle of you promote the record, you release it, you go on tour, and until you start writing again. So
right.
without the element of touring, it feels a lot different. There's a lot of uncertainty, and it's definitely stressful. But we just try to channel that creativity in other ways, and doing a lot of the music videos that we've put out in a very sort of DIY sense, and planning this live stream release show. Mm-hmm. So we're just trying to stay creative in other ways and be as active as we can in sort of a virtual world.
Yeah, absolutely.
But definitely eager to get back to touring when it is something that is safe and appropriate.
Right, for sure. Let's jump into the new album a little bit. I've had a chance to listen to it, and it sounds great. I was so
Thank you.
excited when you guys signed with Hopeless. How has that been, that relationship with the new label?
Oh, it's been really great so far. They've been super supportive of our sort of creative process, and um, they have such a small but powerful and dedicated team. It's sort of like a lean group, but they get so much done, and it feels like working with a major label. But you're dealing with a very small personable team, and it feels as though they have so many bands on the label, but
Yeah,
when they're
some
working,
great ones too.
but you feel as though you're the only, like, you're their priority, or you're their only band. So
That's
so
great.
it's really nice. It's been a great working relationship so far.
For sure. Speaking of working relationships, I was stoked to see that you guys worked with Will Yip again. For the listeners who don't know, Will Yip has produced a ton of stuff in his career, including like Circus Survive albums, the Menzingers, Movements, who I believe are on the roster with you. Tell me about this relationship working with Will. I know sometimes people like trying different producers for different things, but you seem to have stuck with him for the last few releases.
So I think that what's really striking about Will as a producer is that he really immerses himself in his role as, like, thinking in terms of what works for that band, not necessarily like what he would do personally. Like, he really puts himself in the mindset of, like, what would somebody in Tiger's Jaw do to approach this song. So yeah, people definitely go to different producers for different things, but when you trust a producer can get different things out of you, then it's sort of the same vibe. Very early on, Will and I met up and just kind of talked about what we wanted for this new record, how we wanted to make it different, how we wanted to progress. And one of the big things was we really wanted to change the production and really try to capture the human live element and that human sort of like energy, because this record comes after our most busy touring schedule that we've ever had as a band. So we've really like refined that sort of energy and that live performance over years and years of touring very regularly. So we really wanted to make sure we captured that in this in the production of this record.
Yeah, and I think you did. Like, it definitely has that feel to it. You can feel that energy, that live energy off the floor. It's great. So Teddy and Colin are now full-time members, and I know that for this album, it's been a very collaborative effort with everyone having their hand in the songwriting. What was the main decision to do that?
Sure. Well, I think we just were able to take advantage of the fact that we had spent so much time together, getting to know each other as people, learning our tendencies as musicians, and just kind of built up this level of trust. They've been playing our older songs on tour for so many years, and they learn the ins and outs of like who myself and Brianna are as songwriters. And so it just felt very natural to start demoing and working on songs together.
Cool. Is there like an overarching theme to the new album?
Yeah, I think the title track, "I Won't Care How You Remember Me," is sort of a statement about focusing on the things that you can control or have sort of control over, and just trying not to get hung up on the little things that you really can't control. Figuring out how to take accountability for yourself, as a person, and moving forward from things, gracefully, and not getting hung up on stuff that in the grand scheme of things isn't a big deal or isn't something that you can even control. So
Gotcha.
it's about getting out of your head a little bit and being more present in the moment, and learning from things to be able to grow and move yourself forward as a person. So that's kind of the overarching theme of that song, but it spreads throughout the record as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, I definitely got a sense of that too. So that's cool that we're on that same wavelength for sure.
Awesome.
This might be a bit difficult to answer. It usually is. But what's your favorite track off the new album? Or top three?
So I've had to answer this, and it tends to change a little bit.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah.
But so I think my initial answer are sort of the bookend tracks. The opening and closing tracks are really special to me. Starting with the title track, it's a very raw, sort of vulnerable, lyrical song for me. So it's special from that sense. I think it's a really effective introduction to the record. It sort of like pulls you in gradually, and then there's this big sort of payoff at the end, and transitions into the second song, Cat's Cradle, in a really interesting way. But it's just like it captures this really interesting energy, and is sort of like a perfect prologue to the rest of the record. And it begins with my voice and acoustic guitar in the same way that the last track, Anniversary, ends with just acoustic and vocal. So it sort of ends where it begins. So to talk a little bit about the last song, Anniversary, is, I think, very early on, it was Teddy who said, this needs to be the last song on the record. It just has this sort of like, it just sort of has this like energy of like, it's a conclusion to something,
Right. Yeah.
So in the context of like the track listing and everything, it does feel like this sort of satisfying, conclusive, like acceptance or something like that. So that was a really fun track to work on. And if I had to give a third, maybe the track Lemon Mouth, which is one of Brianna's songs that she developed with Colin playing guitar. So I actually got to switch over to bass for that song.
Oh, cool.
And Colin played the guitar, and there's this really interesting chord progression. There's this really cool, noisy sort of guitar solo right after the first verse, and the lyrics are very personal and very Brianna. So it's just like getting in her headspace for a little bit. It is really cool for me as like a listener of the songs that she writes. It's right. It's a really cool song of hers, and it was really fun to just kind of like take this different role in it and just focus on the bass line, and it's just a really cool track that kind of like it just reminds me of like, so Colin and Brianna, they live in the same town basically, and we just have like this really great core group of friends there, and it just sort of is like, it just reminds me of that sort of hometown camaraderie.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I like that. That was in my top three. I love New Detroit. That was the one that like caught my ear, I guess. Cool. And Can't Wait Forever. It's so catchy. I like that one a lot too.
Thank you.
What can you tell me about the album art? It looks like it was like a shot taken from the Cat's Cradle music video.
Yeah, well, it sort of worked in reverse of that, where for the Cat's Cradle video, we tried to like recreate the vibe of the album art. But
interesting. Okay.
But Brianna has always done our album artwork, and she tries to incorporate different like mediums of art, like photography and painting and mixed media and things like that. So she came up with the idea and just wanted to create this sort of like mysterious looking, like this it's just like a bunch of different interesting looking textures, and you don't exactly know what's going on or when it is or what it is. So it's just like a little bit ambiguous, but it's something it's hard to put into words, really. Like when I think about the sound of the record and picture the album art, like there's some sort of connection there. And I think it's open to interpretation with like how you connect the two. But yeah, it's one of my favorite album artworks that she's done.
Yeah, no, definitely fits with that vibe. That's something that I try and do a lot now. Is just really paying attention to the album art or like album covers. So you know, it just makes sense, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Yeah, but like, okay, that's totally fine of an answer then too, because that's kind of what I felt as well. I'm like, this makes sense, but I don't know why.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a little bit mysterious and a little bit open ended, but if you take the time to kind of equate the two, it does line up in an interesting way.
Right. What's going to be your favorite track when you are allowed to perform live? What's going to be your favorite to finally be able to play for people?
I, as you mentioned, Can't Wait Forever is a pretty great one for just like the kind of driving energy of the track. That one's super lively, and I think that'll be a lot of fun. And then on the sort of opposite end of the spectrum, the song Never Wanted To is a very sort of like laid back and sort of chill vibe. So I think in the context of like a live show, I really enjoy like the sort of peaks and valleys of energy. Okay. And so like in those quieter, more delicate moments, like those are just as interesting to me as like the really high energy, like sort of really rock parts.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I get that. Cool. I wanted to talk about one of the music videos, the video for Hesitation. It's wild. It just felt so different from everything else you've been releasing lately, and I just needed to know who came up with the idea behind that and how fun that must have been. It looks like it was just such a fun music video to shoot.
Yeah, it was amazing. So our good friend Shane Moran came up with the idea. And, you know, he just had this idea for these characters, and he wanted it to be very, very sort of quick and driven by the rhythm and the beat of the song. So like all the camera movements are very lined up to very specific beats in the song. So you almost like it has this really great rewatch value because you pick up on different things, you know, each time you watch it. But it was done in a very sort of DIY sense. Like our friend Joe built all of like the stage, like the stage and the stairs for that, and then the like the knife throwing board and the boxes for being sawed in half, like the magician thing. So our friend Joe built all of that in his garage, and then we all got together a few days before the shoot, and we painted everything, and like Brianna worked with Shane to like design all of like the logos that we painted on everything, and it was just like this really fun cooperative like effort, and it was just driven by this very cool and specific and very vivid visual idea that Shane had. So it was really fun to bring it together.
It's such a fun video to watch, and like you're definitely right. I've watched it a couple of times now, and there's always like new things I'm picking up and seeing on each watch. So it's great. Cool, Ben. I normally end my interviews just with like some more broader, general music questions, just so fans can get a chance to really like get to know what, you know, their favorite artists are listening to. I'd like to know what musician or band or artist has been getting you through the pandemic the most. Like who have you been going to the most to kind of get you through harder times?
The deluxe version of Tom Petty's Wildflowers came out last year, and I've just been really obsessed with that because I got the vinyl deluxe set that has the album tracks, and then it has the additional studio tracks that were left off the album, and it has some home recordings, and it's just like this expansive collection of tracks. And Tom Petty's one of my favorite songwriters of all time. So it was sort of just diving back into that record. And,
cool.
So that's probably the top one for me.
Okay. Wicked. Yeah. My partner's going to love that answer. She absolutely adores Tom Petty. How do you go about finding new music?
I think through the more general, Spotify algorithmic stuff, which isn't my preferred way of finding out about stuff, but it's still a nice thing when it does happen that way.
Right.
In a in a pre-pandemic world, I love going to record stores and looking at the new releases sections. You know, most of probably all of my friends come from the music sort of world. So, you know, when somebody hears something that they like, that, you know, it's usually recommended to all of their friends or posted on their social media or whatever. So, so yeah, just through kind of pretty basic channels, I guess. But yeah, I think one thing that's really been cool about music in the pandemic is just people trying to be more supportive and figuring out how they can support their artists more with things like Bandcamp Fridays and you know, more artists doing live streams and when we were doing Instagram performances, I would play a couple songs and then invite one of my friends through our, you know, split the screen sort of like this, and then let my friend play a couple songs and then try to get, you know, our fans to listen to someone new or something like that. So so yeah, just through, you know, through things like that, you know, I'm always listening out for new music.
For sure. Okay, then follow up. What is your latest and greatest find? It could be someone old, maybe someone new, just someone new to you that you found recently that you're really into.
Probably Bartees Strange.
Okay.
He just put out a record called Live Forever a few months back on Memory Music, and I had heard the name before, but hadn't really checked out his stuff until Will Yip told me that they were like working together on releasing that record, and I checked it out and was just blown away. It's just really incredible, interesting songwriting, and he's just a really natural performer and has an incredible voice. So I've really been enjoying watching the world celebrate that record because you know, he seems to be having a really cool moment right now.
Cool.
And it's exciting to watch that happen.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm just gonna make a note of that and check that.
It's a great record.
Right after this. Nice. All right, man. That's it. We are done. I know you have another one right after this. So.
No worries. I appreciate you having me on.
Hey, man. It's been so much fun. I can't wait for this all to end so I can see you guys play live.
Yeah, we can't wait for that too.
Yeah, I'll be tuning in for the album release on next week.
Awesome.
Cheers, man. Have a great day.
Thank you. Take care.